everyone, and thanks for joining me today for this very special COVID-19 vaccine edition. I apologize that I've had a little bit of a break, but I do plan to make lots more videos in the future, and I'm excited about what this new year 2021 holds and anticipate a fair bit of changes. So if you're already a subscriber, I thank you for that. And if you're not, I would ask you to consider subscribing and certainly give me a like if you appreciate the following video. I hope to answer a lot of your questions. Thanks. So the reason I'm making this video after a recent delay of video production is because I've had so many parents and friends approach me about my opinion on the COVID-19 vaccine. So, spoiler alert here, I've already received my first dose, so if that gives you an idea, I wholeheartedly, enthusiastically, joyfully support the COVID-19 vaccine, and I'm so thrilled that there is a ray of hope at the end of this very long, dark tunnel that we've been in. So there are some specific questions that friends have brought up that I would like to address in this video, and I hope that you guys will find this helpful. Now, understand, as always, these videos have never been intended to be medical advice for a specific situation. That's not even appropriate, and I've never intended it to be that. I want them to be educational and hopefully reassuring. Now, this particular video isn't even so much for pediatric patients because, as you may or may not know, the current two products on the market are from Pfizer and Moderna. Pfizer is 16 and above and Moderna is 18 and above. So really it's not hugely impacting the pediatric world yet as far as the vaccine. Now, generally, as a pediatrician, I would be very insulted by that. But remember that the burden, the bulk of the disease is in the adult population. So actually, it's quite appropriate if you think of this, in the big picture sort of way, that adults were used in the studies and that the vaccines have to be studied in whomever they're going to be marketed to, and that's how it was done, and that's perfectly appropriate. So I want to go through some specific questions I've had from friends and from patients' parents and address those. And there are several different ones. And we are going to try throughout this to just really emphasize science, data, studies, and how things were done so that you will have some reassurance in this product. I want you to understand that I have no vested interest in this other than I want to protect me, I want to protect my patients, I want to protect my parents and my in-laws and my family and everyone around me. And so we all are members of this society, and so hopefully we all have that same drive to protect those around us. So I am not getting any sort of a kickback or all these other fantasies that are often on social media that physicians are somehow benefiting from these products. I'm just very grateful for them. I'm very grateful for the scientists who've been working years and years and years to be able to produce this specific and incredibly targeted vaccine. A lot of people don't understand the general concept of vaccines and how they work, and there are different ways. This one is completely different than any we've ever had before. Now, a lot of people are worried about that because they worry that this the production and this technology all came about so rapidly that for some reason we should distrust this vaccine in particular. Well, no. You should know that the technology for a messenger RNA vaccine has been in the works for well over a decade. Since 2003, people have been working on this idea. So let me explain the idea of this particular vaccine. It is that a tiny particle of RNA, specifically messenger RNA, is wrapped in fat or a lipid because it has to penetrate the cell wall, which, as you remember from high school biology, is a phospholipid bilayer. So to get through there, that messenger RNA, which would go away very rapidly, that's why these vaccines, both the Pfizer and the Moderna, have to be so very, very, very frozen, and once a batch is thawed, they have to be used within a certain amount of time because of the delicacy of this messenger RNA wrapped in lipids. Well, it goes through the phospholipid bilayer cell wall and gets into not to the nucleus where your DNA is. It's not going to alter your DNA over your whole body. Calm down. It gets into the cytoplasm. Well, in the cytoplasm are the ribosomes that are the protein factories of the cell. And so what these incredible, amazing scientists have done is create this messenger RNA that tells the ribosomes to specifically make the spike protein that's on the surface of the COVID-19 actual virus itself, right? So the way this works is the messenger RNA gets in your cell. The ribosome produces the spike protein. Your body says, wait, spike protein? I don't recognize that. That's a foreigner. Alert, alert, alert. And so your body's immune system kicks into action and it starts producing antibodies against this foreign protein. Well, so what's the difference with that and the real virus, the wild type virus? If you caught COVID-19, it takes your body a while to mount this immune response, right? So if you have the vaccine, you're cranking out these antibodies, and then should you ever encounter the wild type virus, the real thing, you don't take weeks to produce an appropriate and definitive antibody response. Because you understand, with the real infection, the virus is going crazy, replicating, while your immune system's trying to keep up and make more antibodies and it can't do it, and so you get sick. Well, with the vaccine, if you should come across a wild type virus later, you've already got memory B cells that know this specific foreign protein, this spike protein that your ribosomes made. Isn't that the coolest thing? And so you can respond to it appropriately and rapidly thanks to your memory B cells. Now, certainly, we can't predict the future. This virus hasn't even been in the United States now, but for, just slightly under a year. So we can't say long-term, how long will the antibody production from the vaccine last? We don't know for certain. Now, we hope that it's going to be longer than the antibody production from the wild virus type infection, partially because there is a booster dose. So I may remember to discuss some differences between the Pfizer and the Moderna product. There really aren't that many large differences, but the Pfizer, the booster dose is in 21 days after the original, and it's 28 days in the Moderna. Another common question I get is, wasn't this rushed? Well, for one thing, remember that the technology we've been working on, like I said, since 2003, so that part rushed? No, not at all. Now, the part that people might be referring to is how quickly we moved through the phases of the trials. And some of that was because, just to be perfectly blunt, there was a large amount of money available. Even very generous celebrities like Dolly Parton contributed to the Moderna project, but also a much larger donor was the federal government that sort of bankrolled it so that these drug companies didn't have this financial strain of, will this one work or will this one work? As soon as they had an idea that this would work, they were able, it takes money to enroll all these patients in the pre-marketing trials. And so for phase 3 trials, you have to have over 30,000 subjects, and both of them did. And by the end of the trials, the phase 3 trials were not rushed at all. There was not emergency authorization for the product until they completed the phase 3 trials. This was done just like other things are done. So no, it wasn't rushed. And they found 95% efficacy with the Pfizer product and 94.5% efficacy with the Moderna product, both of which are incredible and higher than many of the other still very valuable and life-saving vaccines that we have in the market. These are just incredible vaccines, and it's really awesome. They do have some side effects because guess what? They're making your immune system respond. Well, when your immune system is saying, whoa, buddy, there's a foreign invader in my body, you could have a headache. You could feel achy in your joints. You could have low-grade fever. You could have some soreness at the injection site. And if that happens to you when you get the vaccine, I want you to say, yes, I am mounting an immune response. This is valuable, this is important, and this is good. So they're not really side effects of the vaccine, more like expected and good responses of your immune system to recognize that foreign antigen and mount this big immune response. So that's really kind of a good thing. Next question is, a lot of people ask, and this actually aggravates me if you can't tell. I'm not really good at hiding my feelings. Oh, and I've seen this on social media, and it absolutely drives me insane. But I have seen people post, this virus has 99% survival rate. Who cares about a vaccine? Why are we all being so careful? That's ridiculous. Okay, well, first of all, it's already killed over 300,000 people, so that's pretty insensitive, callous, and jerky of you to say that, okay? Second of all, it's changed so many people's lives, including healthcare workers. Again, rude, non-compassionate on your part. And I just want you to understand from the feeling of healthcare workers, I've been very blessed not to deal directly. I'm not working in the emergency department. I am not working in the intensive care units where they're intubating patients regularly, and it's terrifying. Those healthcare workers are losing patients to death. The patients are dying from COVID. Well, that's a very hurtful thing if you're a healthcare worker and you feel like you failed, and you take that hurt and that pain home with you, and it's depressing, honestly. Well, then there have been, the last number I saw was over 1,700 healthcare workers have died themselves. They've died just because they care about people and they care about their patients and they're going to work and getting exposed there. Well, when a fellow healthcare worker dies, that's not only depressing, it's terrifying, okay? So I just want you to understand that some of the things that people are posting, but all forms of social media, are very hurtful to healthcare workers. And when you are the one that needs admission through the ED to the intensive care unit because your oxygen level is tanking out, I just want you to think about, wow, how rude have you been? You said all those doctors falsified all the claims of COVID deaths. We really don't falsify things. For the most part, pretty moral, loving, caring group of people if you look at healthcare workers as an entity who are putting our lives on risk for people who don't even appreciate it. Okay, so let's just stop with this virus only kills 99% of people post, because what you may not understand is that there are multiple things that can happen long-term after having COVID. So we don't know extremely long-term. Of course, it's only been here a year, but we do know, even in pediatrics, if we have a patient who's been infected with COVID, they have to have medical clearance to return to sports because that virus can damage your lungs. That virus can actually attack the heart, the muscle that makes up the heart. You can get cardiomyopathy from COVID. And so we have to do a cardiac clearance for athletes before they return. If they've had mild symptoms, general pediatricians can do it. If they've had significant symptoms, they actually have to see cardiology, an actual pediatric cardiologist, to clear them to return to sports. Does that give you an idea that this isn't just a silly little thing? It's also very insensitive to say. The other thing is it can attack the brain. So we've got lungs, heart, brain. There can also be a long-term, we call them long haulers, huge autoimmune response that the body can mount that was triggered by the COVID infection itself. So yes, there could be some concerns that this could happen from the vaccine, but almost always whatever could be triggered by the vaccine would be triggered much more by the wild virus infection itself. So I don't know if you have seen some crazy things on social media, but I have. Some of them have said, oh, this vaccine contains microchips that will make me subservient to, I don't know, Bill Gates or something insane. Please, 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 please don't share junk on your social media platforms. Like, for example, that the vaccine could cause female sterility. Don't share junk on social media. You're spreading misinformation and it could make people scared to get a life-saving vaccine. That's the only way we're going to ever get to herd immunity, so we can return to a more normal life and quit wearing masks and hug our friends again if we can get to herd immunity. This right now is our best chance. It doesn't cause female sterility. We would see a higher rate of miscarriage in people who have wild-type virus. It's the same vaccine, the same spike protein on the cell wall that we're targeting with the vaccine. Those things are just baloney. Please don't be afraid of them. Please learn to use some critical thinking and do some research on your own. Another question is, how will it be distributed? So we are currently in 1A, which is healthcare workers and long-term facility care residents. 1B is frontline essential workers and those greater than 75 years old. 1C is 65 to 74 years old and all the additional essential frontline workers that weren't already vaccinated. And then 2 is everybody 16 and above who hasn't already received the vaccine. I thought of one more thing that I forgot to say, and that is some people are concerned about preservatives and things like that. These vaccines contain no preservatives. That's part of why they're so frozen, that and to preserve the messenger RNA. And they contain no aluminum, no mercury, and no food allergens. So hopefully that'll be a reassurance as well. So I just hope you could tell from this, I'm passionate about this. I'm very grateful that I was able to receive the vaccine. This is a modern miracle, and we should all be grateful for the science that went into this and the protection it could afford us. I hope this answered your questions. Again, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to make a comment for suggestions for future videos. Thank you so much.